On this episode of Just Informed Talk, an incredible set of posts from Q that force us to ask the question, did the CIA not only create Facebook, but are they still monitoring you through it actively today? And we have to look at what happened with Edward Snowden. Incredible information coming out about all of this here, and you guys are going to want to stick around and enjoy. So first of all, thanks for coming to Just Informed Talk. My name's Craig. Click that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications and hit the thumbs up button if you guys like the video. That helps out big time. Today we're going to pick up right where we left off. We left off here at Q Post 2979 and we're picking up at Q Post 2980. And I always tell you guys, come back here to the landing page and watch these videos because I make a point to say that what's going on with YouTube and the way they're gradually turning down all of our voices across the board, anyone who covers things that aren't popular, it's just something that's happening. So you guys got to come here, you got to share these videos and watch them. And if you don't know what QAnon is, watch this video right here. It'll give you all that information and much more. Plus, I just appreciate you guys coming and supporting the channel. So today we're going to pick right up where we left off. Of course, this is the first post that we have has this New York Post article here talking about, and this is from November 28th of 2018. So this is from a while ago, but this was a report of an interview with President Trump where he basically, according to this headline, threatened to declassify devastating documents about the Democrats. And in this article, it goes on to basically, you hear the president say some stuff like, if they go down the presidential harassment track, if they want to go and harass the president and the administration, I think that would be the best thing that would happen to me. I'm a counterpuncher, and I will hit them so hard like they've never been hit like that. I think that's what he meant to say. Anyway, it says, this was the whole story, right? Basically just talking about how he was not afraid to go after them if they start this harassment campaign, meaning if everything fizzled out with the Mueller investigation as it seems to have, according to multiple reports coming out of sources who are close to that information, then it's reasonable to say that this is the harassment that President Trump was referring to in the way that the Democrats have launched. They have put out 81 subpoenas for different people that are in the Trump sphere to go after him, from his connections to the Trump Foundation, to his taxes, and to his real estate deals, and to even back to his parents' inheritance. So they've literally just opened an open-ended fishing expedition on President Trump and anyone who's within his sphere. So that should be terrifying in and of itself, because that's really, really a complete misuse of congressional investigative authority. So that to me is what we're being pointed to. And then Q goes on to say, read carefully, knowing what you know now. Predictable. Moves and counter moves. Death Blossom Q. Now, I got to be honest, I had to look up what this Death Blossom thing is, and it's weird. It's crazy. It's an American military slang from the war in Iraq, which is the tendency of Iraq, and this is according to UrbanDictionary.com, but it talks about the tendency of Iraqi security forces in response to receiving a little fire from the enemy to either run away or do the Death Blossom, spraying fire indiscriminately in all directions. Could you imagine? Could you imagine being there and some nut job starts shooting in every direction? I mean, but that's what Q is saying, because they're so terrified. They don't know what to do. They're metaphorically shooting these subpoenas out in every direction, trying to hit anything randomly. And that seems to be their strategy. So that's, I think, what Q's laying out for us there. So now the next one is a tweet from Sarah Carter, and it's talking about the hearings that took place today where Kristen Nielsen was and others were testifying about the crisis on the border, and they were giving these real statistics. One of the most disturbing statistics that came out of this, I'll share with you in a second, but Sarah Carter says, this crisis has been brewing for decades. It can no longer be ignored. Something has to be done both for national security and also for humanitarian reasons. And there's actually this article from Sarah A. Carter, which actually goes over a lot of it. Now, suffice it to say that there are just some disturbing statistics that point to the fact that there is a true crisis on the border, a national emergency, and President Trump has basically been vindicated of the accusations coming from the left. If you ask me, when you look at these statistics, one of the main ones being that I saw and was basically talked about a lot tonight was this basically report that there's been a record number of illegals trying to enter the country in the first 3 months of this year, and they're predicting that by next year there will have been 1 million people who will have tried to cross our border illegally, and that's an invasion, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, 1 million foreign individuals, foreign migrants flooding across your southern border, and the Democrats don't want to put up a wall, and it just doesn't make any sense to me, because that's just should be common sense. But the Democrats already know, they just lie, dishonest. And that's this tweet that Q wants us to look at, which is actually this old video we're going to watch of Dianne Feinstein on immigration. It's you can't, the irony and the hypocrisy rather is incredible, and you just got to listen to this.
People who should be here are those who come legally at this time. And we've got to, for the time being, enforce our borders. The day when America could be the welfare system for Mexico is gone. We simply can't afford it. And I think you've seen the figures to state and local governments of what the cost is. It's over $2 billion.
I think we should enforce our borders. To have a situation where 40% of the babies born on Medicaid in California today are born of illegal immigrants creates a very real problem for the state, which is in deficit.
Look, of course you can enforce the borders.
Let me finish.
I agree.
To have 17% of our prison population at a cost of $300 million a year be illegal immigrants who come here and commit felonies. That's not what this nation is all about.
Very simple. They've been enforce our border. They have been speed up the asylum process. They have been crack down on illegal smuggling. They have been remove the option that is given to an illegal alien convicted of a felony has an option of serving time in this country or in their own country. I say return them to their own country, wherever that country may be, to serve the time. So my proposals have been all along those lines, and I think most people have regarded them as moderate.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, obviously, what she says today is totally different from this, and the party line on the Democratic side is nearly opposite. She sounds like President Trump, if you ask me, and that's what's really disturbing, right? Because we see this and it's happening, but there's not much we can do, right? Except keep moving forward and point out this hypocrisy where it really exists, and it says, "Welcome to the Democrat Party, Q," and that's what it is. And the next one here, Q says, "Freedom of thought will not only save you, but it will save the world. The days of fake news, control of narrative, brainwashing are over. Enemy of the people, the great awakening, Q." And yeah, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, this is what we're up against. The next one here is an anon saying, "Feinstein said this many decades ago, so she is absolutely full of it." I agree. Q says, why is POTUS pushing for term limits? Time equals corruption, Q. So it makes sense. I mean, people get in there and they become so entrenched and it becomes a career for them. And then, they're basically, it seems like the longer they're in the office, the more susceptible they are to corruption, just looking at this objectively. So there you go. The next one's interesting. It says, Facebook is returning to the news. LifeLog DARPA ends. Facebook begins. LifeLog DARPA team transfer. Facebook. What DARPA team member past present work for Facebook? What divisions locate 3 public, 9 total, 6 non-public? Building 8 exposed here when? 4/11/18. Think scramble offline scrub post Xbox PlayStation chat logs drop. Microsoft shutdown immediately post drop. Building 8 news release restructuring Building 8 release. December 14th, 2018, RIP. And it gives this TechCrunch article, which says, the headline here says, Facebook restructures Building 8, separating projects into reality labs and portal groups. And what this article basically goes on to say is that they got rid of Building 8, but they didn't. They really changed it into this team portal and the Facebook Reality Labs research group. So it's still there, obviously, and it's still operating. It says RIP equals false, reorganization equals true, China. open access, pay for play, laws which prevent CIA operations inside Homeland, bulk data collection, NSA Homeland, bulk data collection, CIA Homeland. How does the CIA avoid law trigger regarding umbrella spy Homeland? Facebook, China, Building 8, Google, China, Dragonfly, Twitter, US legal tracking. Facebook, track user GPS voice and text. Google, track users GPS voice and text. Twitter, track users GPS. Phone pad, microphone, algorithm, all for marketing purposes as publicly disclosed. Who has access to bulk track data? Who has access to bulk data? If NSA has ability to absorb data stream in Utah, in-house tools, does CIA have ability to collect data stream from funded networked offshoots, big tech? Offshoots necessary to avoid CIA breach of U.S. domestic law. Amazon server cloud contract. Amazon server cloud route data 1 through 99 domestic. CIA tasked with gathering and analyzing info on foreign governments, individuals. Signals intelligence, covert. It says NSA tasked with gathering and analyzing info on a global scale, including domestic, signals intelligence, covert. What former U.S. president was CIA director? And then it gives this article to a website we looked at yesterday, funny enough, The War Zone, and from the Drive. And it talked about George W. Bush here and how he saved the CIA. So he was the director of the CIA that we're meant to take from that. It says, think CIA, Brennan, authority spy campaign are authorizing spy campaign U.S. Senate under Hussein. Think CIA install campaign U.S. House and Senate infiltration, part 1 of 9, Q. Okay, there's so much to unpack here, but I'm going to try to keep it relatively brief. We're just going to look at these quickly. So what Q is saying is that Facebook's coming back into the news, and it's going to have to do with something new. And we're going to look at this later. There's story coming out about them trying to get ahead of something, it would seem, by getting out this story about how they're going to revamp their efforts to secure individuals' privacy on Facebook. But what this is basically saying is DARPA was this project, as we learned from Q back on April 11, 2018, with this post from Q where an Anon basically put together that this Project LifeLog ended on the same day that Facebook began. Which you would think that the people who made this project, who tried to make LifeLog into Facebook, would, from the CIA and DoD, would have thought maybe we shouldn't end one project and start another on the same exact day. Maybe that would look bad, but I guess they weren't thinking that far ahead. And what Q pointed us to last time was to understand that LifeLog was this project that was created by DARPA with the help of the DoD and the CIA in order to be a program that you enter your life into so that you can be tracked. It's quite simple. You enter where you go. You talk about how you're feeling. It tracks where you go. It listens to everything you do. It sees everything you do with the cameras. So they didn't, I'm sure they probably knew that cell phones would probably become ubiquitous, and they knew it would be a good way to track people, whatever. This is what Q's pointing us to. The same day, February 4th, 2004, is the same day that Project LifeLog ends and that Facebook begins. But it's asking us, how many people from DARPA are working at Facebook? And there's actually a few people you can find publicly, including this person right here, Regina E. Dugan, who is the former director of the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, aka DARPA, and who back in 2016 was working at Facebook's Building 8. And notably, she was actually accused of trying to steal, literally trying to patent an idea that was presented to them by an academic student from MIT. That's what she did at Google. So you can see the kind of stuff that she was working in and doing. But that being said, there's other people obviously that from DARPA that ended up working at Google, and it's saying what divisions, and it says locate 3 public, 9 total, 6 non-public, Building 8 exposed here when, and then it says think, and then when we keep going down here, it's basically talking about, you guys remember the time when Xbox and Q basically said they were using these Xbox and PlayStation chats, open chats. So you go to play a video game, you go play whatever, Call of Duty, which is a popular game, or Fortnite or something, and they were exchanging secret information over the chat logs. It's in, you can't make this stuff up, right? So as soon as Q called them out, they you saw Xbox and Microsoft crash their servers, and Sony, they crashed, they went down. I'm using air quotes, and all of a sudden that was presumably it was because of, I don't know, DDoS or something, or technical issues. But Q was insinuating that they were wiping basically the servers clean of any of those chat logs that could be pulled up, because Q knew, right, and called him out on it. And I think that Q and everyone else logged all of that information before they announced it here on the channel, or on the Q board. So that was it. That was what happened. And it's just, Q wants us to know that they never got rid of Building 8. They're just restructuring it. Now they're trying to get into China. Now, so what you have to understand is that what Q is going to kind of allude to later is that the CIA has full access to all of the information that Facebook was just kind of like a way to circumvent U.S. law, so they could basically track and monitor and collect data on any targets or people they want to target. And that was their whole plan. And the reason why China wouldn't take it is because they knew what it was. Basically, they understood that Facebook was domestic, or whatever, an international now tool for the CIA to have access to people's personal data and not be subject to these laws, right? So, and I'm talking about our domestic laws against spying on our own citizens. So that's what this is all referring to. And Building 8, Dragonfly, Twitter's legally tracking you. They're all taking your information all the time. And there are algorithms that make it so even if you delete the app, apparently, it doesn't matter. They're going to still be able to access all of your information. And then it points to Amazon and their cloud server contracts. And how is this all basically put together? Q calls it here. It's the big techs. They're the offshoots of these big CIA and other intelligence agencies, right? They're basically just offshoots because they were helped to be created by that. And of course, you can put all this together for yourself, but you understand when you look at this and you get these kind of questions and this intelligence that would make you think, all right, what was going on here, right? And when Q says this down here, it's something Q's talked about before. The CIA was caught spying on the United States Senate, right, under the Obama administration. And they just kind of shrugged it off like, oh, well, we had to know what you guys were saying. That's classified. We can't tell you why we're spying on you. I mean, that is literally like getting into a real police state there. And this is really what we're trying to avoid. And this is what happened. And then it says, think of the CIA install campaign in the House and Senate. You have all these former intelligence officers running for publicly elected offices. Oh, I wonder why. Man, this is awful. Part 1 of 9. I guess we got much more to come. And you guys saw this. Q just posted this. It was the April 11th post, and we went and looked at that. And the next one here is interesting. It's another pen shot. So it looks like, from what I can see in this picture, now, a lot of anons have analyzed this picture, but there's a pen here. Obviously, it's in a notebook on paper. I think this is President Trump. You can see a person's reflection here. That looks like President Trump. That looks like he's sitting in the White House or in the Oval Office with those yellow curtains behind him. And yeah, that's what I take this as. And a lot of people say, well, the hair's too dark. Maybe it's Devin. Maybe it's Devin Nunes. But I don't know. That person looks kind of like President Trump to me. You kind of see the red tie there. But yeah, that would be the reflection of the person taking the picture. And then it points to this Twitter status from Miguelifornia. Kind of like that name. Or AKA at Michael Beatty. Beatty. And he says, listening to Hannity Radio in my car just now, Sean seems calm, confident, and at peace. He mentioned 3 different times, quote, my sources are telling me all will be well and that justice is finally coming, unquote. It's coming. Where we go one, we go all. QAnon, dark to light. And Q says, we hear his sources are very credible. Q. Awesome. And this next one here is a picture of a young kid here saluting the flag. And it gives you this YouTube video, which is the preview trailer for White Squall. the movie that a lot of the terminology we have here on the board is based off of, where you hear like where we go one, we go all, or you hear like the calm before the storm, and all of that stuff. A lot of that's gleaned off of this movie, which is it's a pretty interesting film too. You guys should check it out. It just talks about camaraderie and building a team of people who work as a unit, as a family, to fight adversity, to combat adversity, to overcome adversity. But Q says, never in our history has a communications project such as this taken place. Return power back to the people. And I think that's true about what we're doing here on these boards every day. But this is a quote from Ronald Reagan. I'm going to read it to you guys. Truth, transparency, and equal justice under the law. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men and women deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, or of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be charged for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And I'm sure some of you have already run down to the comments to tell me that wasn't a quote from Ronald Reagan. I'm quite aware. Here's the actual quote from Ronald Reagan. It says, quote, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same thing." Reagan, United We Stand, July 4th, 2019. Where we go one, we go all. Q. And I don't know if you guys have booked it yet, but I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. for this incredible event that's taking place on July 4th, where President Trump's going to give a speech in front of the Lincoln Memorial. There's going to be fireworks. It's going to be a big rally, march. It's going to be awesome. So we're going to be thinking about putting stuff together for that. I'm contemplating doing some sort of meetup for anybody who's interested and wants to meet me and is going to be there. But we'll talk about that later when we get closer to that time. Now, the next one here is this tweet from this AJ, where they say Facebook launches research lab building 8 with former DARPA chief. And of course, this was the what we just looked at, kind of, where the same person we looked at, Regina Dugan, is being mentioned in this article as being tasked to head up the research over Building 8 at Facebook. So why is that important? Well, of course, Q says, define LifeLog, DARPA. Quote, an ontology-based subsystem that captures, stores, and makes accessible the flow of one person's experience in and interactions with the world in order to support a broad spectrum of associates, assistants, and other system capabilities, unquote. The objective of the LifeLog concept was to, quote, to be able to trace the threads of an individual's life in terms of events, states, and relationships, unquote, and it has the ability to, quote, take in all the subject's experience from phone numbers dialed and email messages viewed to every breath taken, step made, and place gone, unquote. And it says define Facebook. It says the Facebook service can be accessed from devices with internet connectivity, such as personal computers, tablets, and smartphones. After registering, users can create a customized profile revealing information about themselves. Users can post text, photos, and multimedia of their own devising and share it with other users as friends. Users can use various embedded apps and receive notifications of their friends' activities. Users may join common interest groups. Compare and contrast. DARPA senior employees at Facebook. DARPA terminates program February 4, 2004. Facebook founded February 4, 2004. DARPA equals Facebook. Q. So Q's bluntly saying this now, but look, I mean, the whole point of LifeLog, what it was meant to be, is what Facebook has become. So you can at least look at that and say, okay, well, that is suspicious. And then you can think about this, the date of them ending this program and starting this website being more suspicious. And you can make these connections with former DARPA members going and working at Facebook as even more suspicious. And there comes a point, like Q always says, where, how many coincidences before it's mathematically impossible? That's what you have to ask yourself. But now the next one says logical thinking. Did DARPA complete build code taxpayer-funded LifeLog program? After completion, was there fear the public wouldn't accept the adoption if known it was DoD, Department of Defense, or CIA backed? Do you believe people would join a platform knowing it was under the control of the CIA and federal government? No. How do you lure the masses into entering all their personal info and private messages, i.e. their LifeLog, onto a new platform? Do you make it cool? How did Facebook supposedly start and launch? Ivy League only? Develop a trend and or following? How do you keep the project running without taxpayer funds? DoD reported LifeLog was terminated to Congress Senate oversight. Define black budget. Did Hollywood push? Do people follow the stars? Competitors systematically attacked MySpace to prevent competition. The largest collective social media platform in the world, billions logged, is owned and operated by the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America. The more you know, Q. I mean, I got goosebumps, and I'm looking here. I'm sitting here next to a cell phone, and I got the Facebook app. I'm sure they're listening to everything I'm saying too, and you're saying, and we're all doing. They're watching us, they're listening to us, they're logging, tracking our movements. I mean, guys, what Q just said, if true, and I have to make that clear distinction, if true, is one of the biggest stories of our generation. The largest social media platform in the world is owned and operated covertly by the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America. I don't even know what to say. And it makes sense. Nobody would have done Facebook if they had been like, oh yeah, the CIA made it. It's great. You'll love it. Nobody would have done it. And how did they lure us in? Do you guys remember? I'm old enough to remember when Facebook first started. You had to be in college, and I happened to be in college at the time when Facebook first started. And you had to have a college. I was there like the first day. I think it was around there. I was like my freshman year in college when Facebook started. And in beginning, I think it was basically all Ivy League colleges, and I wasn't an Ivy League college, but it basically, I remember that you had to have a college email address in order to get into Facebook, and everyone thought it was so trendy because it was all your friends. You know, you're in college, you're in the dorms, and all your friends are on Facebook, so you wanted to be on Facebook, or else you felt left out, right? This is so crazy. Wow. I don't even know. And that it's being funded through the black budget. And obviously, they have their people who push things in Hollywood. And they destroyed MySpace in order to prevent the competition because they wanted Facebook to be the ubiquitous social media app that everyone has, right? So, I don't know. This information is crazy, if true. Expand your thinking. This is the next one, Q responding to what we just read. It says, if covertly operated data accessible to project designators, would they attempt to prevent any type of government regulations from being imposed? It says, expand your thinking further. It says, why was Mark Zuckerberg chosen as CEO, public figure tasked to expand growth? Family tree of Mark Zuckerberg. Who is the wife of Mark Zuckerberg? Family tree of wife? Why won't China allow Facebook? Situational awareness? Do they know it's an individual collection asset program being covertly operated by the CIA? Do they know it's been expanded to tap into the microphones of any device for listening and bulk data collection? Do they know it's been expanded to tap into the GPS router of the device for real-time tracking? Do they know it's been expanded to tap into the camera function of the device in order to view, record all targeted designators? Q. This is what I'm talking about, guys. I mean, this right here is this is bombshell information right here. I mean, this should be the story of the year right now, but nobody's reporting on it. So I don't know if true, I guess. But so just to go over this, I did a little research. It's hard to find anything. A lot of people talk about the Habsburgs, when they talk about Mark Zuckerberg, something with his connection to that line. I don't even know. All that stuff is really tough to figure out. And then if you look at it, I think his dad was a dentist, and his mom was a psychiatrist. Can't really find any connections going back. There's all these rumors about him being actually this person named Greenberg, who's connected to the Rothschilds, but I can't find that really either, not at least verified. It's a lot of websites reporting that are not very accurate. The wife is a woman who her parents she was actually I think she was at Harvard. That's where they met, and she was studying, I think, medical school, and her parents are actually refugees from the Vietnam War, I believe, and I think they're part Chinese. So I don't know. That's very interesting. But it talks about situational awareness. It's like, why wouldn't China want this? Well, maybe because they know what it is. That's possible, right? So that's exactly where we're at. This is the information we're getting. This is bombshell stuff. And then Q puts in the next one here, just puts 2 out of 9 or 2 of 9 complete Q. So I guess these are the 2 of the 9 big bombshell drops that Q's making. I mean, this information, if true, is a bigger story than almost anything I think we've covered here on this channel for I mean, besides a few things. I mean, geez. Anyway, the next one is this Quartz.com article. I'm going to try to get through this quick. I know we're pushing 30 minutes here. But it says Google's true origin partly lies in CIA and NSA research grants for mass surveillance. This was the article we got before where it talked about how, obviously there were different NSA and CIA research grants that were given to Sergey Brin and Larry Page when they were doing all their research to basically create this. And it says DARPA is Google, right? Re-review past drops, major steps underway to challenge these control pockets, Q. So look, if these companies are going to do what they're doing, right, it's one thing, I'm not going to say that I'm a big fan of a company that's basically hiding the fact that they're working for the government, but it's one thing to do that in an objective manner, in a manner that is sufficient to protect us for national security without it being widely abused. But now these big corporations like Google, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, they've been weaponized against a large swath of the population because we're starting to figure out what they are. And they're so ubiquitous in the fact that they're the only source for certain things, and they're the largest, therefore they're the most information, the most power, the most control. They're the biggest ones hardest ones to challenge. And that's apparently what President Trump represents, which is why I think they're terrified. And the next one here starts with this link to this In-Q-Tel, which we've talked about here on the channel many, many times before. But it's actually a link to their history, which lists their corporate officers here. So, yeah. And it's weird that they don't even have their picture. You think there's a reason for that? They just have these like weird caricatures of what they might look like. I haven't been able to dig on each one of these people, but I know a lot of Anons are out there doing that right now, and there's a lot of information we can glean off of this. But to know it, you just got to remember that In-Q-Tel is basically one of the launching points for these big tech corporations, like how they were started, because this is where the information was being funneled through on behalf of certain CIA organizations, or CIA groups and other intelligence groups. That's just what I've basically seen over time. But it says, why did @Snowden only engage and attack the NSA? If @Snowden really cared about privacy citizenship awareness, why didn't he expose the CIA's main programs? @Snowden was privy to DARPA, In-Q-Tel, and NSA surveillance coverage programs, covert programs. It says, why did @Snowden only focus on NSA? Where did @Snowden work prior to NSA? Ask yourself a very simple question. Would you release, go live to the public across the media, all highly classified material prior to getting to your end destination? Or would you logically travel to your end destination, then release publicly? Was Russia the planned location? Why Russia? Why did China, Hong Kong let him out of the country? Was there a red security alert put out to prevent passport travel across all nations? Why did China grant access to travel with the block in place? Why Russia? Russia. Q. So, I mean, you guys can put this together. We've talked about it before. Where did Edward Snowden work? It's been alleged that he was a part of the farm. What's the farm? The farm is where they train CIA operatives. So he was a CIA spook before he even went to the NSA. And he was sent to the NSA by the CIA to cripple the NSA because they were catching on to all of the corrupt abuses of power that were happening in the CIA. And they were actually able to document it in these major sophisticated surveillance programs that they had at the NSA. So what was the point? So Snowden was sent there by the CIA to go steal all that information and then disable the NSA so the CIA could keep working to their nefarious ends. And that's what's been presented to us up to this point. And the question being posited here by Q is incredible. If Snowden was so caring about us and wanted us to know about how we're being spied on, and he knew about what was going on with DARPA and Facebook and what was going on with the CIA and tracking people through social media and In-Q-Tel and the NSA surveillance, why would he just talk about the NSA and their surveillance? Why wouldn't he have talked about the CIA's involvement with these big tech companies and their basically skimming information off of that, allegedly? That's the question. I mean, and he was meant to end up in Russia. It was a deal with Russia, I believe. Looking at all the information up till now, especially given that I've covered this for a long time, I actually am pretty sure that Edward Snowden was a deal traded to the Russians in exchange for them basically not saying anything and letting it go, kind of, in my opinion. That when he ended up in Russia and China, they were just happy to get all this classified information. They probably didn't have a lot of it, really any access to a lot of it, and then they were just given it. So like, all right, well, we'll take him. But this just shows you, man, in my opinion, that's crazy. That's crazy. Q says, people are pawns in their sick game of global domination. People are divided to prevent a rising of the people. People are divided and taught to fight themselves instead of the ruling class. Race versus race, religion versus religion, political versus political, class versus class, sex versus sex. When you are divided, you are weak. When you are weak, you have no power. When you have no power, you have no control. Stay strong, patriots. Stay united, not divided. You are what matters. You awake is their greatest fear. Q. And that's why they're coming so hard against us, I think, especially here on all the social medias, because we're starting to realize what they are. And I mean, this is just, I don't know, it's mind-blowing. Think about where you're watching this video. You're watching it on YouTube, the subsidiary of Google. Just let that sink in for a second. Anyway, it says the next one here, which was pointing to this tweet from Sputnik about a story that was coming out just now about Mark Zuckerberg outlining plans to build a privacy-focused Facebook. Oh, how endearing those words are. And Q says, trying to get ahead of something. What a coincidence. Q, which I think that's fascinating. And then the next one here is an anon saying, Ket Q, Mark Zuckerberg gets called out and immediately, I think it's pointing back to that tweet we just looked at. Mark Zuckerberg gets called out and immediately panics. Really nothing to see here. And Q says, other articles prior to posts, which means I think that there were other articles reporting that before Q was posting, I think. But it says privacy push to cover for past future exposure issue regarding data release non-marketing. There is no privacy. There is no way to turn off, even though through app deletion, their ability to extract info. How is that possible for a supposed non-governmental entity? Phone companies involved. Phone wipe resolve. Q. Wow. This is basically saying that you can uninstall the app, the Facebook app, and it's still going to spy on you. And then Q's insinuating that the phone companies are involved and complicit. And Q's asking, it's like, if you wipe your whole phone, will that resolve it? And if it won't, then that means that it's like embedded in the actual, either the OS software or the actual hardware of the phone. Wow. Jeez. And then this last one's kind of weird. This is just randomly talking about Denver Airport, which, nothing's random on the Q board. So maybe Denver Airport we need to keep an eye on. But it goes over all this stuff. You guys have probably seen this stuff. I've seen many videos that document the fact that, and I've been to Denver Airport, it's all like covered in this Masonic stuff, and it's got this was weird. This was like some sort of New Mexican artist actually made this, and it killed him. It hit him in the head, and he died while creating it. And I think some people have said it represents some satanic stuff. And then this is like this is one of the portraits you see when you go through the Denver airport of like this soldier with a rainbow and these kids and people crying and looking like they're buried or dead under rubble. And it's just, I don't even know. And, obviously this talks about the New World Order Airport Commission. Now, this might be what Q is talking about. March 19th may be a day that we should look forward to. I think March 19th, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that the day when the 21 days is up? Right? Or close to that? But it says the New World Airport Commission were the ones that made this. The New World Airport Commission. And there's a time capsule beneath that stone that contains messages and memorabilia to the people of Colorado in 2094. Oh my gosh. So weird. I've seen that stone. I've been in this airport. I've seen all these things, these pictures. They have these weird murals with kids crying and forests burning. And I mean, it's just weird. And then the kids like doing this, stomping on this guy. I don't know. What in the yeah, they're crushing, knocking down the statue of war, violence, and hate. And this is a weird little speech. I was once a little child who longed for other worlds, but I'm no more a child, for I have known fear. I have learned to hate, and how tragic then is youth, which lives with enemies. Like, what is this weird stuff? And these weird gargoyles in the suitcases. I don't even know. All this stuff's strange. Q points to it though, and Q just put the link up, so I don't even know. Yeah, something may be going down in Denver soon, so you guys are gonna want to keep an eye on that, and I'll definitely keep an eye on that since I do live here in Colorado. That would concern me deeply. But you all know also the story about the underground base. It's got one of the biggest. I've heard there's like a city underneath Denver Airport. What's interesting though is it talks about how what we were just looking at, this note talking about it's located 25 miles from Denver on a plot of land encompassing 53 square miles, which is twice the size of Manhattan. So you really think there's nothing under it? I don't know. That's where I'm going to leave it. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments. Like I always say at the end here, the algorithms are deboosting. They're trying to slowly, gradually turn down the volume on us. Every one of us patriots who covers this content. So I encourage you guys to come here, watch these videos, share them on your social media, get the word out there, watch this video again if you don't know what Q is, and make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the like button and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights down at the bottom, because I want to hear what you guys have to think about all of this. But in the face of all this stuff that we're going up against, I depend on you guys to help fund the channel, and I'm so grateful and thankful to everyone who comes over here to Patreon, the crowdfunding website, where you can find it. Patreon.com/justinformedtalk. There'll be a link in the description. Basically, you just come here, click this button to become a patron. It's a monthly donation. You set it and forget it. Know you're helping create the content here. And also, I have this GoFundMe set up. If you guys want to make a one-time donation, that's fine as well. Both the links will be in the description. Don't forget to go check out justinformednews.com. It's got links to the Q stuff. It's the official website for Just Informed Talk. That's justinformednews.com. And it says you have real news links here. You have live news feeds, plus you get all of the videos from the channel here. It's a great place to go, a resource. And last but not least, come check me out on Twitter at justinformu. It's my official Twitter page. You guys can get all the tweets. You can come tweet at me, get the content, all that stuff. I encourage you to come check that out. So before we go, yesterday was Ash Wednesday, and I went to a wonderful service. That's why this video is a little late, but I guess it's good that it was a little late because Q posted later. But I went and it was a wonderful service, a great sermon. I received the ashes, and in the spirit of Ash Wednesday, I just want to share what I think it's about and what we should all understand it is about. But we're going to do a little segment here in the end that we always do. It's called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly, in fact, greater. And like I said, yesterday was Ash Wednesday, so for me, I just want to share this one verse with you. It's a short verse, but it's from Ecclesiastes. It's chapter 3, and it's verse 20. And it says, all are going to the same place. All come from dust, and all return to dust. And that's the point, I think. What we have here in this world is temporary. And it's just one step into the great unknown. But we don't look at it as the great unknown because we know our eternal salvation is there. And if you don't know that, it is. Jesus died on the cross for your sins, our sins, so that we may be saved if we're repentant, if we ask for salvation, if we ask God, if we humble ourselves before God and we ask for true forgiveness, then we will receive it. And when we do end up returning to the dust from which we came, we'll be seated with our Father in heaven. And that is the ultimate goal for me. And I think that's what I learn when I think about Ash Wednesday. And I hope that those words help you out. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I want to say thank you for joining me here. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell. And make sure you hit the thumbs up button. It's a like button. It helps out too. And I just want to say thank you for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.